Good morning and happy Easter, everyone. Welcome into today's Chiropractic and Nutrition here on Unforgettable 1220 and Classic Hits 99.7. Chris Roberts here, and with us in the studio, Deb Ford, MSRD of the Good Earth Health Food Shop on South Shannon Street in Van Wert, and Dr. Ian Rainey, Doctor of Chiropractic in the same building, the Good Earth Health Food Shop on South Shannon Street in Van Wert. Well, you know, something apropos for Easter Sunday, herbs of the Bible. There were actually herbs mentioned in the good book, you say?
Oh, but you know, actually, the all the trade routes used to carry herbs and spices from all around the world. I mean, when you go back in history books, when you think about all the different trade routes, they always were carrying herbs and spices.
That's true. We heard about that. I guess we never equated the two.
Never really paid any attention to that, but a lot of them are really appropriate this time of year. On Passover, bitter herbs were to be taken with the Passover Seder. Wow. And you know, a lot of the food traditions around the Jewish faith had to do with health. I mean, they really kept people much healthier.
In the wilderness for so many years, just preserving meat was an art that they developed. In fact, I think they got blamed in a lot of cases for rampant disease because they knew how to preserve meat and others didn't.
Right.
So.
Well, and this, you know, they were told to take the bitter herbs with the Passover Seder when they had the lamb, not when they had a vegetarian meal, but when they ate the meat, they were supposed to take bitter herbs. Well, things are really coming back around. You know, for years and years, we've been doing a lot of digestive enzymes that are going to help with fat, proteins, and carbs. Yeah. Well, some of the latest research is actually going back to using the bitter herbs that enhance your body's own digestion. So you can get like a bottle of bitters that include different things like horehound and lettuce and tansy and horseradish and endive and coriander seeds. Those are the herbs that just keep the pancreas putting out enzymes and the gallbladder doing its thing, helping the stomach to produce hydrochloric acid. You know, so yeah, they were told to take the bitters so that would increase the stomach acid to help with protein digestion.
That's neat. Well, a lot of people may be thinking, well, you know, why do I really need my stomach to do better at digestion? Well, a lot of people, when they have digestive problems, they may not realize it, but they will be extremely exhausted and fatigued because the body is not able to digest and break down that food. So then you have a lot of leftover things that the body has to deal with. Yeah. So it just wears you out. I mean,
and these bitter herbs back then, also by increasing the stomach acid, would help prevent poisoning from bacteria or parasites, you know, parasitic infections. So having your stomach work today, super important so that you don't have, deficiencies and such. But back then, it was life or death.
Well, that's a good follow-up to last week because we talked about how important having stomach acid is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, what is that green stuff you're drinking?
Oh, that's a smoothie that I put together.
I'll bet it has digestive bitters in there.
So got a little bit of protein. And
another herb that I love, frankincense. And frankincense is used today in a lot of inflammatory compounds that are anti-inflammatory compounds that actually will fight osteoarthritis, taking down the inflammation. Okay. You'll find it today called boswellia.
Yes.
So absolutely fantastic for inflammation. They also used to burn that as incense to set the mood, to reduce stress.
You're talking about the frankincense?
We are talking about the frankincense. Okay. Now, I would like to go on and talk about cumin. Cumin is actually an herb.
These are biblical herbs we're talking about?
Cumin, yes, as well? I know. They're the same ones that we cook with today.
These were held in great esteem and value in the world in those days.
Right, and cumin actually has ties to Ayurvedic medicine that is used in a lot of compounds today that are great for digestion. In the state of Kerala, they make a tea called Jira water that they'll use, and it's actually known today to be good to prevent heart disease, swelling, fever. Very, very interesting. Some of these herbs that thousands of years.
We're learning new terms. Giro water, something I'd never heard before.
Yeah.
And the other day we had a guy out who was giving an evaluation of our lawn. You know, they're going to work on the lawn.
Yeah.
And he said, "You have a lot of Zeus grass."
And you said, what is Zeus grass?
Yeah, it's like Hercules grass. Or,
Is that the grass that just takes over? Or what?
I'm wondering what happens if we water the Zeus grass with Giro water. See what happens. You know, we might get an actual lawn out of it. You know.
Or a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
yeah. So then other ones, cinnamon has been used for centuries for them and us, coming from Sri Lanka, China, Ethiopia. There's a little bit of confusion that has gone back a long way with a cassia and cinnamon.
Okay.
The trade routes would many times kind of intermingle them. So a lot of the old traditions, we're not really sure if they were using cinnamon that we know of today or cassia. But in biblical times, this cassia used for the same things we use cinnamon with cooking and things like that. Also with medicinal things that they use it for athlete's foot, indigestion. Today, we're finding cinnamon being used for blood sugar control problems. Very, very popular for that. They have actually done some scientific studies where they're finding some effects on Alzheimer's disease, even antiviral. They're finding some benefits in the replication of the HIV virus. So a lot of these herbs that were used a long time ago are today finding strong benefits.
So we
great.
try to make these shows here valuable to people who are listening for a lot of reasons. There's, of course, a lot of learning that goes on, even among those of us in the studio, but also beneficial to people who experience maladies here and there, and some common maladies in these cases, like headaches. And I know we wanted to talk about those today as well.
The reason I really like chiropractic for headaches is because you can get immediate results. I mean, before the patient gets up off the table, they'll tell you their headache's gone, and it's really cool to see that. I feel like that is one of my strong suits. I'm very good at removing headaches. You know, you can also give the patient exercises to do at home that will help them long term, so their headaches don't come back. Go ahead.
So those exercises would be good to reduce neck tension?
Yeah, because you've got the trapezius muscle, which is going to start at the base of your occiput, which is basically at the base of your skull. And those fibers that connect right at the base of the skull, they come down into the shoulders and they go all the way down into the mid-back. And when those muscles are tight, you have a tendency for the muscle fibers to pull on the back of the skull. You get a tension headache, and then it gets worse and sometimes develops into a migraine.
People naturally want to rub the back of their neck, too, when it's sore. You know, and I see a lot of nutritional things with headaches.
Absolutely.
You know, I've had so many people that'll say, oh, in the middle of every afternoon, I always get just a little tension headache, when in fact, it's more of a hypoglycemic headache.
Once their blood sugar drops.
Blood sugar drops, you know, and their brain starts to swell. In fact, with dietary changes for those kind of headaches, 97% improvement. And I see it all the time. All you have to do is eliminate a lot of the sugars, make sure they have a little protein, eat on time, don't have so much caffeine, pop, things like that.
Yeah, very neat.
Yeah.
What is it about the about squeezing the skin between the index finger and the thumb and holding that?
The Jijo point.
Is that is? Okay, now we got the Zeus grass, the Giro water, and the what?
The Jijo point.
The Jijo point.
Yeah, that one right in there in that little fatty part between the index finger and the thumb.
Because I've actually, when I was a little kid, somebody showed me that.
Yeah.
You know, I had a headache and I squeezed on it, and it actually felt better.
Right.
What's that?
Well, it's digestive. And I remember one time I was in a theater when I had first heard about this, and I hardly ever get headaches, but that time it was probably a blood sugar headache, and I just squeezed it. And, you know, you just find the part that really hurts, and then you just dig in.
It kind of melts away. It hurts there, but
it really, yeah. And it just aids. It's just one of those acupuncture points that, you know, when you relieve that blockage, it's just enhancing digestion, so that takes it away.
And when the digestive system is functioning or increased, that would be the parasympathetic nervous system, which would cause more of an overall relaxation with
Very
muscle tone in the
good.
body.
Very good.
So if
yeah.
people question whether there's any value at all to acupuncture, I guess there's a good example right there. You're not sticking a needle in, but you are
Absolutely.
you are
Yeah.
pressuring a specific pressure point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and a lot of, you talk about the tension and things like that. Most Americans are deficient in magnesium.
Yes.
And
Oh, boy.
magnesium is the mineral that relaxes. So if we're chronically low in magnesium, which also increases your response to stress, and then stress makes you more magnesium deficient. So it's like a vicious cycle
Yeah.
that, if you can relax a little bit, maybe eat more whole grain foods that are going to have more magnesium in it, all the way around, we won't have so much problem.
Now, there are foods to avoid, obviously, if you're prone to headaches.
Well, yeah, there are some food allergies.
But I always thought that you should avoid chocolate. But then the other week we were talking about how chocolate actually deconstricts.
Well, for some people, but if somebody has a food allergy, common ones are to coffee, chocolate, tyramine, which is an amino acid containing
Chocolate has
foods.
caffeine in it, right?
Right, right. So, I mean, if somebody needs to dilate those blood vessels or constrict the blood vessels, you may have a therapeutic use of those. So,
Yeah.
that's where you'd have Excedrin that has a little caffeine, or to have a cup of coffee. Yeah. So but food allergies are kind of different than having an effect on vasoconstriction.
But generally what happens years ago when people were under pressure and headache prone, they would smoke cigarettes and drink coffee to relieve relieve the stress,
Yeah.
and that would contribute obviously to the problem. Right?
It's not a healthy thing. Something else that I've heard about that I don't know anybody that's given it a try, but actually a lot of studies have been doing with capsicum, cayenne pepper, nasal spray.
Shooting pepper in your nose.
Cayenne.
Hot red pepper, make a solution. And it's amazing. I mean, I don't know anybody that would use it, but the first time you use it, they say it really does burn.
Who says this?
Well, they've done studies.
Once they come to,
yeah. And in
if it's
5
peer-reviewed,
days, now
then.
this would be like with intense cluster type headaches
Yeah,
where
yeah. You
people
can't see out of one eye.
Oh, and it goes on for almost every day. But in 5 days, half of the people, the headaches were totally gone. 31% much improved, 19% were not helped. But after a few days of doing this, it no longer burns. I think those nerve endings just give up. But, the nasal spray.
That would cure anything. My foot hurts. Spray some capsicum in your nose.
Yeah, I think I would prefer to use some of the essential oils. We've got a combo of Typhu, where you just take a couple drops of this. It's a combination of peppermint and lavender that you just put at the base of the skull and on the temples. Massage that in, and that's great for headaches.
But the cayenne pepper thing in the nose, you got to think that they could never sell that because even though it may work great, no one would really. It's too uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine. I mean, I remember one time we were canning hot pepper jelly, and one of the kids grabbed the pepper and took a bite out of it. And, and then their eyes started to water. And so the hand that had held the pepper, then they were rubbing their eyes. And it was awful. It's been forever ago, and I still remember that.
Well, I'm sure that's highly diluted, that spray.
Not that. I mean, a little bit, of course, but it doesn't take much. You put that in
It's like nitroglycerin. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Boom.
So, but, other things that a lot of people... or just benefit if you drink water. At the onset of a headache, just get yourself well hydrated. I've really never had headaches, but I know if somebody has had exposure, and we're not talking some headaches that are caused from injuries or
Trauma,
carbon monoxide or heart stroke things. They need to seek medical attention immediately. But one time I painted a kitchen in the middle of the winter, thought I had it ventilated enough, but I just had a dull headache for days and days. That was just liver.
And
And just exposure to toxins can give you headaches.
Well,
So
think of the typical hangover, quote unquote. That's liver.
the product I used when I had this that was just sort of a toxic headache was the Livoplex, which is just going to enhance the enzymes that help break down toxins in from the liver. But so anyway.
Don't try any of this stuff you hear on the station at home, folks. These are trained professionals.
Yes.
We don't want to do the pepper notes thing and be answering to the lawyers for that one. So.
Yeah.
But you were talking about water. That's, like you said, that is very important for the muscles. So if the muscles are dehydrated, they will tend to contract, and that's going to, again, put tension on the base of the skull. So a really neat little clinical pearl that Dr. Holman taught me. Dr. Holman, the great chiropractor, recently retired. He said, what would you do in this situation? And I responded to him, and he said, no, you would want to use moist heat, not just heat, because if you put heat on that muscle will dehydrate, and then it will actually start to constrict more. But if you put moist heat on it, it will relax, and it will kind of. So, if you've got like a tension headache or tight neck muscles, and you're going to put heat on it, maybe add a little bit of moisture to it, or make sure you drink plenty of fluids.
Well, and Epsom salts. A lot of people will take a bath in Epsom salts, which is magnesium salt. Something else
absorbs into the skin.
Yeah. One time when I was doing a lot of computer work and had tension headache, when your shoulders are up by your ears too long, I just put some a towel in Epsom salts in hot water, and then just put that directly on the shoulders, and the magnesium just soaked right into that, and the heat. That helps. So you'd have the moisture, you'd have magnesium, and you'd have the heat.
Wow.
So what do you stay away from if you want to avoid headaches? Is there one general rule for everyone? Don't eat this, don't drink that? Or is everyone that much different?
No, headaches are tough. I mean, there's... it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, very individual. Some people are more prone to them, and if you do have some of the migraines, I mean, some of the typical things that people are deficient with, if they have like sinus, when maybe a weather front's moving through and they'll get sinus headaches that are just horrible migraine types. Magnesium, most people are going to be deficient magnesium. Vitamin B2. I'm sure there's some techniques that you do as a chiropractor that kind of relieve the sinus pressure, because that is very, very good. Something else that has been effective for a lot of people is the use of melatonin. We typically just think of melatonin for sleeping, at a low dose, 1-2 milligrams for that. But high doses, 9-10 milligrams, clinically, they have used 9 to 10 milligrams to eliminate those cluster kind of migraine headaches. But 9 to 10 milligrams. You'd want to be supervised doing that. But there are a lot of natural things that are going to just enhance your body's own mechanisms to work with that, with typically out side effects.
Well, a slightly shorter show this morning because we're trying to squeeze some more folks in here. Congressman Bob Latta is in town back in the district from Washington, D.C., and we hope to be able to speak with him later on this hour here on Easter Sunday morning. So we'll cut it short here, and the mayor will move on in, and everybody's going to have to slide down just a chair here in order to fit the congressman in on the air here this morning. So thanks for being here. We'll catch everybody again next week. Of course, if you want to catch up with these things online, you can do that. If you miss any of these shows, they're all pretty much cataloged at debford.com or drrainey.com, DOCTORRAINEY.com. Both out of the Good Earth Health Food Shop on South Shannon Street in Van Wert. I'm Chris Roberts here on today's Chiropractic and Nutrition. Have a great Sunday.